Hi everybody, it's Jay and I'm back in the booth again with you for another sneak peek video preview of this week's new release here on Say with Jay. This week's new audiobook release is Heartland Giving. It's the fifth book in Jessie Gussman's Heartland Sweet Romance series. And before we get into the book, well, over the last few weeks we've tried a few different fun things with these intros. Last week, for instance, we had a cooking show which seemed to be fairly well received, and by well received, no one has suffered injury to my knowledge thus far. But today, we thought we'd do something a little different as well. This past Friday was my son's 23rd birthday, and he thought it would be fun to visit the Georgia Aquarium and the World of Coca-Cola, both located next door to each other in downtown Atlanta. Now, he and I have been before, but his new bride has never been, so he thought it would be a fun time, and they were kind enough to invite me along. Since I'm going, I thought I would bring you nice folks with me. So here is a quick travelogue-like look at the Georgia Aquarium. As some background, in case you're not familiar, the Georgia Aquarium opened in 2005. It's the largest aquarium in the United States and the third largest in the world. It's arranged in several galleries. If you want to think in terms of a traditional zoo, each gallery is a different habitat. The first of these that we visited was Sharks, Predators of the Deep. In this gallery, they've got several species of sharks in one large central tank. They've got tiger sharks, they've got black-tipped reef sharks, they've got hammerhead sharks like you see swimming here. Next, we visited the Tropical Diver Gallery. This gallery is full of tropical fish like the cichlids you see here, seahorses, sea stars, anemones, with a clownfish, like you see here. From there, we went to the River Scout Gallery. Now, as you might expect, in the River Scout Gallery, it features a lot of river-based fauna, like gar. There were some piranha from South America, but it's not just fish. They have a variety of turtles, and even some alligators. In fact, the Georgia Aquarium has 3 rescued albino alligators. As you can see, these guys lack any kind of pigmentation, and they're exceptionally rare in nature. The reason being, obviously, they don't blend in with their environment very well, so they make very, very poor hunters and usually starve very quickly. And that gave the aquarium an opportunity to rescue these 3 and have them on display for the sake of education about alligators in general. This was also the home to a kind of a unique experience. It's a touch pool. What you see here are rays from the Amazon River Basin. They're freshwater rays. And in this tank, if you can tell there's a raised lip area that goes around the edge of the tank. You can walk up to the edge here, and if the rays choose to, and they frequently do, they will swim up to the edge, on this lip, and you can reach in the water and pet them. It's self-regulating that if they don't feel like any interaction, they just swim to the middle of the pool where you can't touch them. Kind of neat. Now, this leads us to my second favorite gallery at the aquarium, and that's the Coldwater Quest Gallery. It's the home to several sea otters, and one really cool thing here about the sea otters, they're all rescues at the Georgia Aquarium. Sea otters face a fairly unique threat both from climate change and from commercial fishing encroaching on their food supply, and often when a colony of otters can't support all of their animals, pups will be abandoned. And that gives organizations like the Georgia Aquarium the chance to rescue and rehabilitate these little guys and have them at the aquarium to educate us all about their place in nature and the plight facing them. Regardless, these guys are a hoot to watch. They love to play for people and just a lot of fun. Also, the aquarium has several beluga whales. The beluga whales live in very cold water, and if you notice, they've got a large dome on their forehead. That is where their echolocation centers are, their sonar. Also, in addition to the fish and the mammals, the Georgia Aquarium has several exhibits with birds. Here is a fairly new exhibit with sea pigeons and puffins. Kind of neat to see. Also, I wanted to give a special mention to this guy. This is a rockfish. They can live for up to 50 years. But look at this guy. You can tell already. He's seen some things. And those things might include the eels on display at the Georgia Aquarium, including this fire eel, who I learned is named that, I guess, because of his coloring. I was rather disappointed there were no flames involved, but what are you going to do? And then these guys, like that old Dean Martin song, "When the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie," that's amore. Anyway, but that leads me to my favorite part of the Coldwater Quest Gallery, a fairly new exhibit, the African penguins. These guys love to play, and it's a lot of fun watching them. Unlike their Antarctic cousins, they don't need extreme cold to live. They live on the coast of South Africa, not extreme climate at all. In fact, their habitat at the aquarium is kept around 70 degrees. But as you can see, they just have lots of fun all day long swimming and chasing each other. Now, all of those galleries lead you to the star of the show. That's the Ocean Voyager Gallery. The Ocean Voyager Gallery is basically a giant tank. It's one of the largest single-tank aquariums in the world. It's 6.3 million gallons of water. To get to the main viewing window, you pass through a plexiglass tunnel. It's about 150 feet long, where lots of fish swim over and around you. It was here that I learned that stingrays love lettuce. That is a head of iceberg lettuce that they're eating and playing with. So, yeah, they like a little salad every now and then. Who knew? But without a question, the most striking part of the Georgia Aquarium is when you get to the main observation window in the Ocean Voyager Gallery. This tank, which holds more than 50 species of stingrays, manta rays, grouper, several sharks, and the stars, 2 whale sharks. The whale sharks, which, as you can see, are not small, but they're not newborns, but they are fairly young, because they're only, and I'm using finger quotes here, they're only about 20 feet long. Whale sharks can grow up to 60 feet long, so they've got a little growing to do. Also, the Georgia Aquarium is the only aquarium in the United States that has manta rays. The manta ray that you see here, also known as the devilfish because of its little projections around its mouth, which help funnel krill and plankton into its mouth, look like horns, and it was thusly named. One thing I want to point out about this amazing window where you can sit and watch, these fish, and I could sit there for hours if they'd let me. But this window is 23 feet tall, 61 feet long, and because of its size, because of the massive amount of water behind it, it is 2 feet thick. It's made of acrylic, not glass, and it weighs 185 tons. So that's been a quick look at the Georgia Aquarium. If you ever find yourself in Atlanta and need something to do for half a day, I can't recommend the aquarium enough. It is a lot of fun. It's a very educational opportunity, and it would take about 2 to 2.5 hours to visit, to go through at a reasonably leisurely pace. But let's move from the Georgia Aquarium to Prairie Rose, Iowa, because we need to talk about Heartland Giving. Heartland Giving is the story of Esther MacCartney. She's the youngest of the 3 MacCartney sisters who live on and operate their family farm after the tragic death of their parents. Esther has been bedridden for nearly the last year with what doctors believed was Lyme disease. As you can imagine, after that length of time, not being able to work or to really do anything, the feelings of worthlessness and depression that kind of set in have crippled Esther as much as the actual disease she's experiencing. It's also the story of Monroe Hutchinson. We've met other members of the Hutchinson family before, but the Hutchinsons run a family business, a harvest crew business. So most of the year, the harvest crew is out traveling the country harvesting crops by contract. And that's what Monroe typically does. So he's in Prairie Rose for the winter, but he's thinking about settling there permanently. Now, he's dating one of Esther's sisters, kind of an on-again, off-again relationship. But Esther is really the one who makes him laugh, that he enjoys being around, and he started to wonder if maybe he's not dating the wrong sister. I won't spoil any more of the story, but there are some really great twists and turns. It's another wonderful Jessie Gussman book that I know you will enjoy. Here is a sample of Heartland Giving. Hope you enjoy it, but then please come back this Friday for the full release of Heartland Giving here on Say with Jay.
His hand settled on hers, and he said, "Moxie," more forcefully this time, and her hand stilled. She looked up. "I've got this. You look like you're about ready to fall over. Go on and sit down on the bench on the other side of the cash registers. I'll get this, then I'll get your groceries, and then I'll help you out."
"No, really, I can do this."
"Of course you can. Eventually. But this is your first time out of the house in almost a year. You've already done enough. You're going to hurt yourself or hurt someone else." She glared at him, not wanting to hear the truth, but knowing he was right. "All right, fine. You sit there. Let me do this, then we'll check out together, okay?" She didn't want her eyes to fill with tears. They weren't sad tears or weak tears. They were frustrated tears. She had been healthy and energetic and active all of her life. Why was she so weak and tired now? "Trust me, every trial is for a reason." She closed her eyes and said a quick prayer.
"Help me, Lord,"
before she relaxed her hands, putting them in her lap while she knelt on the floor, resting, while Monroe picked up everything. She'd fought her diagnosis, fought the exhaustion, fought everything that had been laid on her, and she wouldn't quit fighting. But at the same time, she could also accept that this whole trial was from the Lord. He wanted her to grow, maybe gain some compassion. She'd been trying.
"I would argue with you, but even if you gave in, I can't really help you,"
she said, pushing the sour thoughts away, allowing her face to relax into a smile. "That's my Moxie," Monroe said casually as his eyes lifted to hers and they shared a smile.
When I feel better, I'm going to win an argument with you,
she said, but her words lacked the force that she wanted to have behind them. "You keep telling yourself that," he said, taking 4 packages in his hand and twisting them around, setting them down on the perfect pyramid he was building.
You probably ought to slow down a little. You'll have the manager here wanting to hire you.
Monroe laughed. "Sometimes I think it would be better to work in a grocery store. I wouldn't be gone so much anyway." Esther's eyes popped open. She hadn't realized being gone for long stretches of time bothered him.
I thought you liked touring the country.
"I do. If I hadn't gotten to work on my dad's harvest crew, I wouldn't have been able to see nearly as much of it as I have. But I guess it's always nice to come home to Iowa, and sometimes I do wish for regular hours and a regular schedule, even though I love what I do." He slapped another 4 packages carefully on the pyramid, then lifted his eyes to look at her. They had talked enough that she knew exactly what he was saying. He had always spoken in glowing terms about his job, about how much he loved the wide-open skies, the feeling of friendship and pulling together he felt on the harvest crew, how he loved working for American farmers, and what a sense of pride it gave him to see the beauty of the country and knowing he was helping to feed it. She had always been proud in the same way of the job she had, of the hog barns they had that produced meat to supply to the country. When she wasn't being bitter and angry at her circumstances, she loved listening to Monroe talk about his experiences, because she could relate, even if she did her part by just staying on their farm. But she'd always been active and involved, and if she hadn't been laid up, she might have fiddled with the idea of hiring on to a harvest crew and seeing what it was all about. Her sisters had managed the farm for the last year, almost completely without her help, so it was pretty obvious to her that although 3 people made the work lighter, they weren't necessary in order to run the farm. A wave of dizziness made her sway, and her hand came up, grabbing Monroe's wide shoulder. His head turned immediately, his brows lifted.
Hi, this is Jay, and thanks for listening. If you're ready for another great audiobook, here's one we think you might like. Or check out the playlist with all our latest releases. Don't forget to subscribe to Say with Jay, give this video a thumbs up, and tell us what you liked in the comments.